Who will be the next big wonder kid? That's a question all clubs and fans want answered, and they will do anything and everything they can to find those wonder kids and get them on their teams. I think that the modern game has an obsession with wonder kids and youngsters. Parts of this obsession make sense, and other parts are just strange. Before I begin the video, about 99% of people watching my videos are not subscribed, so please subscribe if you enjoy the content. It would mean a lot, thanks. So now back to the video. I completely understand why people love to talk about great young players and wonder kids. We want to see these kids develop into fantastic players, whether it be a player that your club signs or a player from your club's academy. We want to see these players at the top of the world when they turn about 25 or 26 and fully develop as players. I do this as well. I like to spot potential in young players and join in on the hype way before players get sold for insane amounts of money or hit the mainstream. I might even make a video about young players that I think will be superstars in the future. However, I think there is a point where the idea of finding the next superstar or being obsessed with young players is just a bit too much. I'll go through 3 examples. One example is the connection between the Brazilian League and Real Madrid. I don't actually have a massive problem with this one, but I do think these types of transfers are kind of further ruining the market for young players and are just sometimes absurd. In recent years, Real Madrid has spent insane amounts of money and taken huge risks on signing players like Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr., and Renier from the Brazilian League. They have also paid a lot of money for Endrick, who will join Real Madrid when he turns 18. Obviously, looking back on it, Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo have been successful transfers for the club so far, but I do think it's a bit odd that Real Madrid continue attempting to sign the next big Brazilian superstar. I think that these types of transfers are just too risky and might not always be worth it in the long run. Let's just sit back and think about this for a second. Real Madrid paid 60 million euros for a 16-year-old Brazilian kid. That's just crazy to me. Can they not use that money to buy some established players? I think this stems from the way that people view Brazil in terms of football. Brazil have had the most iconic teams and players, and I think Real Madrid, along with other teams, are just trying to find the next Neymar, the next Ronaldinho, the next R9 before anybody else does. Again, I don't have a massive issue with this. Another example of this issue is a recent one. It's Todd Boehly's Chelsea. This is one that I just can't wrap my head around, and I think we could see Chelsea struggle for a long time because of it. Chelsea have obviously had a very poor start to the Premier League season, and a lot of people are wondering why. I know why. It's because they are a team full of potential and not a team full of quality. When you look at Chelsea's squad, a lot of players are under 23 years old, and there aren't many established players throughout the entire squad. I understand buying 1 or 2 young players every year, but Chelsea have gone to the extreme. Again, their team is full of what-ifs. Players like Nicholas Jackson, Mykhailo Mudryk, Badiashile, Colwill, Fofana, Maatsen, Enzo Fernandez, Ugo Chukwu, Chukwuemeka, Andre Santos, Caicedo, Lavia, Diego Moreira, Madueke, Malo Gusto, and probably many more, are all in and around their first team. This is an issue because some of them are on lengthy contracts and they are too young. I understand the vision. Get these players on long contracts, and in a few years, they will be one of the best teams in the world once these players fulfill their potential. But unfortunately, I don't see it happening. I think Chelsea will struggle again this season, and it will be because of their lack of leaders and experience. I don't see how these players can develop if they don't get consistent game time and they perform poorly as a team consistently. Their motivation and mentality will likely be negatively impacted, and don't be surprised if many of these players fall off a cliff in a few years. And for what? Just so you can hope and pray that eventually these guys turn into a superstar team? I think that's really poor business from Chelsea. This final example was one I found during the World Cup. And this is a great example of the impact that youngsters have had on the minds of football fans. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but for anyone who doesn't know, I am part Croatian and I support the Croatian national team. During the build-up towards the World Cup and throughout the World Cup, there was a lot of disrespect towards Croatia, but none of it made any sense. The narrative surrounding the team going into the tournament was that the team was too old. This was infuriating as a fan because this was such a widespread idea and it just wasn't true. People saw that guys like Modric, Lovren, Brozovic, and Perisic were still playing and decided to call Croatia old. I was always confused as to why the age of the team would really matter for a tournament. Just because some of the players are above the age of 30 doesn't mean they are physically incapable of playing the sport anymore. I think this stems from what people try to predict for the future of the national team based on the youngsters they have, rather than how they would do in the present. If these players are still performing to a high level, then their age shouldn't really matter. This should be common sense. The obsession of having amazing young talent has infiltrated the minds of so many fans. People can't understand that even players above the age of 30 can still be top players for their teams. It was also strange that no one said the same thing for any other teams in the World Cup, only Croatia. Like, wouldn't you rather go into a tournament with a bunch of experienced players rather than a bunch of young players? This was just really frustrating to listen to, which is why getting third place was just an unbelievable feeling. I could go through many more examples of this issue and how it's affected the footballing world, but I think and I hope that these examples got my point across well enough. Put your thoughts in the comment section below, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Again, thank you for the support.